Prepare to have your sleep disturbed by the chilling tales of these dating app disasters. If you were hoping for a peaceful slumber, it's time to switch off now, because these spine-tingling stories will keep you wide awake all night long. I joined Tinder out of boredom and loneliness. It was last year when things started to settle down after the chaos of the pandemic. I'd used Tinder once before and met some decent people, nothing extraordinary, but the last time I used the app turned out to be the last time I'll ever use a dating app again. I met this girl named Amber, a blonde. She seemed alright at first, which is why I agreed to meet her. I thought she was cute, and I longed for a connection. But little did I know, things were about to take a terrifying turn. We've all heard horror stories about meeting strangers online, but we often brush them off, thinking they won't happen to us. Well, that's what I thought, until that day. Instead of going out for dinner or a movie, she insisted on coming to my house. I made up an excuse, mainly because my house was a mess and I wanted to get out myself. But she insisted we meet at my place, and foolishly I gave in. Looking back, it should have been a red flag, but I was too captivated by her beauty and my own loneliness. She knew it and used it to her advantage. I reluctantly agreed and prepared my house, cleaning up and getting myself ready. She texted me when she arrived and I let her in. The encounter was awkward from the start, and I immediately noticed that she looked different from her Tinder profile picture. I wasn't sure if I was overthinking it or not, so I didn't say anything to avoid being rude. After some initial small talk, she asked if I had any alcohol. I mentioned having some Jameson, but I wasn't in the mood for it. I excused myself to the restroom, and when I returned, she'd prepared a drink for me, sitting on the coffee table. Feeling pressured, I ended up drinking that drink after a few beers. I had a nagging feeling to stay away from it, worried she might have spiked it. But as I got drunker, I convinced myself I was being paranoid and that she was a nice girl. Besides, I didn't notice anything strange in the drink, so I let my guard down. That's when everything took a terrifying turn. The last thing I remember was sitting on the couch, feeling strange, faint and dizzy. I passed out, and when I woke up it was still dark outside. I was lying on the floor of my bedroom, and a wave of terror washed over me. Pain coursed through my body, and as I slowly pieced things together, I realised that something was horribly wrong. Bruises covered me, and I had several stab-like punch wounds and deep cuts on my arms and stomach. The room was a blood-soaked nightmare with my bed, floor and walls drenched in red. Panic set in, and I frantically searched for my phone to call the police, only to discover that it was stolen, along with my TV, jewellery, and a large sum of money from my safe. My house was in a shambles. Windows shattered, rooms were vandalised, and it seems like someone else was involved in this sickening act. I caught sight of myself in the mirror and broke down. It felt surreal, almost unbelievable. I managed to find an old phone, connected to Wi-Fi, and called a friend on FaceTime, desperately waiting for the police to arrive. It took them about 20 agonising minutes. I provided all the information I could to the police, including logging into my Tinder account on the old phone, but she had already unmatched and deleted her account. I doubted it would have made a significant difference anyway, because I was likely catfished. The culprits were never caught. I moved to a new house a few months ago, and though I still have some fear, it's not as overwhelming. I've installed security cameras and an ADT security alarm system, a precaution I highly recommend to everyone. It could save your life. A few years ago, I made a decision that led me into a terrifying situation. It happened when I was 18, just after graduating from high school. My summer vacation had been uneventful, trapped in a home ruled by my abusive and overprotective father. He wouldn't allow me to have friends or any privacy, making me feel completely powerless. However, I'd recently obtained a phone, which became my only means of escape, especially through the Tinder app. One night, my dad came home extremely drunk, forgetting to take my phone away. It was a rare opportunity and I seized it. I'd been chatting with a guy named Jeff on Tinder for a day and things escalated quickly between us. I confided in him about my terrible home situation and he offered me a way out. He said I was an adult now and didn't have to endure my father's abuse any longer. The idea thrilled and terrified me simultaneously. Jeff suggested picking me up that night, but I wasn't ready for such a drastic step. I wanted to meet him first to gauge if he was trustworthy. I explained my hesitation and he agreed to meet and hang out instead. We set a midnight rendezvous and I emphasised that I had to be back home by 4 a.m. To ensure my safety, I asked him to park on the side of the road away from my house. At midnight, Jeff texted me, letting me know that he'd arrived as planned. I cautiously climbed out of a window and began walking down the driveway. Surprisingly, I didn't see any lights or signs of Jeff's car. Assuming he'd turned off the engine to remain inconspicuous, I proceeded cautiously. However, as I approached, I overheard whispers. The whispers suddenly erupted into chilling laughter, followed by a return to silence. Despite feeling uneasy, I pressed forward, keeping my guard up. I eavesdropped on Jeff's conversation, realizing he was speaking on the phone with someone. Strangely, there was no response from the other end. Then the words that made my blood run cold reached my ears. Jeff began boasting to the person on the phone about his plans to rape me, emphasizing his intention to prolong my suffering. The sickness I felt was overwhelming, nearly causing me to vomit. I may have made a noise because Jeff fell eerily silent. The idea of fleeing back into the house crossed my mind, but instead I chose to hide. I retreated to a spot in the nearby woods, hoping it would provide temporary safety. Minutes passed without any sound. Finally, I received a text from Jeff asking where I was. I ignored it and turned off the ringer on my phone. Panic set in as Jeff bombarded me with calls and messages. After several attempts, I reluctantly answered, concocting an excuse for why I couldn't meet him that night and suggesting we reschedule. Unconvinced, Jeff's anger erupted, hurling insults and threats my way. Then he uttered something that filled me with pure terror. "I know where you live. Sleep tight, honey. I'll see you soon." He abruptly ended the call. Moments later, a car engine roared to life and the vehicle sped away. Fortunately, that was the last I heard from Jeff. Fearing for my life, I blocked him on Tinder and changed my phone number. The following morning, while my dad was at work, I confided in my grandmother, revealing the horrors of my father's abuse and what had transpired with Jeff. She immediately understood the severity of the situation and came to pick me up. We decided not to inform my father about the incident, as she had always known he was terrible, but never to what extent. Since that day, my life's improved significantly. I found happiness and healing. I'm now in a loving relationship with my girlfriend and working towards getting my own place. Although I attempted to report Jeff to the police, their inability to act without evidence left me feeling hopeless. It's likely that he continues to harm others, assuming Jeff is his real name. Despite the ordeal, I'm grateful for the decision I made to confide in my grandmother. It was a turning point that allowed me to break free from my abusive father's clutches. I'm determined to move forward, heal, and prevent others from falling victim to individuals like Jeff. Don't miss out on all the terrifying stories coming your way. Hit that subscribe button right now to ensure you never miss a moment of the thrills. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's next. In college, I decided to try out dating apps like Bumble and Tinder just to meet new people and cure my boredom. One day I came across a familiar face from high school named Marie. It was strange that we'd never spoken before, considering we had the same group of friends in our small school. Our conversation quickly took a turn when Marie asked me to hang out that night. Despite feeling a bit uneasy about meeting so soon, I didn't want to ruin my chances, so I agreed. She invited me to her house after 11 o'clock, requesting that I bring some weed if possible. Although I wasn't a smoker, I managed to get some for the occasion. Looking back, I should have been more cautious and informed someone about where I was going. Little did I know that I was about to step into a horrifying situation, but my curious and naive 20-year-old self was driven by the excitement and the unknown possibilities of the night. As I drove towards her house, I played music and sang along, trying to keep my spirits up. However, as I neared the address, a strange feeling started to creep in. The neighborhood appeared run down, and the house she had given me the address to looked abandoned and sinister. My heart sank and I considered driving away. But just then, a notification popped up on Tinder from Marie, asking why I was leaving and urging me to come back. Against my better judgment, I returned, desperately hoping it wasn't a setup. I requested that Marie come outside to meet me, but she taunted me, calling me a wimp and insisting that I enter through the unlocked door. Feeling foolish, I parked my car and cautiously approached the porch. I knocked on the door, introducing myself, and slowly stepped inside. The house was shrouded in darkness, giving off an unsettling vibe. Faint music, some sort of eerie death metal, echoed from upstairs, intensifying my fear. As I climbed the stairs, I noticed only 2 rooms, one of which was a dark, empty bathroom. The other room, where the music was coming from, lacked any signs of light or activity. Anxiety consumed me, and doubts about my choices flooded my mind. Suddenly, the music abruptly stopped, and the sound of footsteps and hushed conversations filled the air. A piercing scream shattered the silence, nearly causing me to lose my footing on the stairs. Panic surged through me as I realized the danger I was in. I spun round, only to come face to face with a guy dressed in gothic attire, complete with dark makeup and long hair. Simultaneously, the door upstairs swung open, revealing the person claiming to be Marie wasn't her at all. Both individuals laughed, mocking me, hurling insults. Realizing that I had to fight or flee, I chose to run. I dashed into the bathroom, locking the door behind me. They banged on the door, relentlessly demanding entry. Desperate for a weapon, I grabbed a toothbrush, fully aware of its inadequacy. Panic consumed me as I searched for an escape route. Opening the shower curtain, I spotted a small window. It was a risky decision, but it was my only chance. With mounting fear, I squeezed through the narrow window and managed to land safely on the roof, narrowly avoiding a disastrous fall. Carefully traversing the rooftop, I scouted for a way down and spotted a trampoline in the backyard. Taking a leap of faith, I landed on it, propelling myself away from that nightmarish house. I sprinted to my car, heart pounding, and drove off, leaving them behind. I immediately contacted the police, providing them with all the information I had. They visited me later that night to gather more details, and I learned that the people who had lured me were part of a murderous black metal band. They targeted innocent victims through dating apps, using attractive girls as bait in their abandoned house. The police discovered the bodies of 2 girls, my age, and a horrifying amount of blood at the scene. While they apprehended some of the suspects, others remained at large. The group called themselves Holy Eternity, or something similar. It was a chilling reminder of how twisted people can be. That night, I narrowly escaped becoming one of their victims. Since then, I've sworn off dating apps entirely, knowing firsthand the darkness that can lurk behind the screen. Get ready for a bone-chilling realization. Life without our videos may be more terrifying than the spine-tingling tales you just witnessed. Don't let the fear consume you. Keep watching, to ensure you never have to face such a terrifying fate.